This is Urban Lens. One-on-one interviews with breaking artists and the history of art itself.
Basquiat, Picasso, Emory Douglas, Rembrandt, Motley,
Georgia O'Keeffe,
Kadir Nelson,
Louis Bourgeois,
Michelangelo,
Yayoi Kazama,
Donatello,
Agnes Martin,
Da Vinci,
Faith Ringgold,
Van Gogh,
Frida Kahlo,
Gauguin,
Yoko Ono,
Romer Bearden,
Barbara Kruger.
Diego Rivera.
Canvas is gessoed and prepared for acrylic. Beeswax and plastic, such as acrylic, do not mix well together. It's disaster. They'll peel off. It won't stick. Just prime it first with the clear wax. And again, you see how this was stretched and it's stapled down. So now we're starting, again, if you want to do the wood and not wrap it with the canvas, you can paint directly on the wood. Many encaustic artists do that. All right, I just wanted to give you an example of just use your imagination when it comes to your ground. It doesn't have to be rectangular or square. It can all. Now, if you're going to do just a hand.
And welcome to Urban Lens, the art podcast. I'm Steve Gregory. And today is a very special Sunday, not because of the NFL, but because of my next guest. I'm very excited and kind of just bubbling with anticipation to hear her story and to share it with you. You know that part of the purpose of Urban Lens is to introduce you to some of the great creators of our time and talk about their background and what makes them tick. We essentially take them off the wall. That is the purpose of Urban Lens. So with that being said, I want to introduce my next guest, Miss Carolyn S. Goodrich. Welcome to Urban Lens.
Thank you very much for having me here.
I appreciate you being here.
It's exciting to share.
I just wanted, for starters, say that we are a podcast, simulcast live, so it's a television component as well as video and audio.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. And I want to start off by saying, for starters, you're West Indian born.
Yes.
Brooklyn raised. Outside of art, tell me about that experience.
Outside of art? Okay. Well, coming from Trinidad to Brooklyn, New York was a culture shock. Even there's a break on my lifeline. It's like, it was because it's a totally different culture here. But I was only 2 years old, but even still, it was a difference. Growing up in Brooklyn was wonderful. My grandmother, who was a Pentecostal pastor, she took me to church with her 3 times a week. So I'm very grounded in religion and the Pentecostal faith and just knowing that there are powers greater than us. So I grew up with that. So that was my Brooklyn experience. And when my grandmother passed, then I went off into Eastern philosophies and studied that. I even traveled to India. I like first-hand stuff. I don't like second-hand. That's good too, but first-hand is even better.
Keeping you off the wall. Tell me about your grandmother, Miss Beryl Odell.
My grandmother, she traveled around the world 3 times on a maid's salary. She bought her own house. She was a tremendous woman. So she brought me everywhere that she went, to the beach, to her place of work, which was in Long Island. Mm-hmm. So I grew up with Caucasian, like, little friends, right? And so for me, race wasn't something that I was aware of. I just knew that we were all here together. My grandmother worked cleaning house. Kids remember food. I remember getting those sandwiches of, peanut butter and the cheese like that. So she took me everywhere, and she taught me how to swim. She took me to Barbados twice. So I really enjoyed being with her because my parents, as normal West Indians, had 2 and 3 jobs. You see. So my grandmother took me under her wing, and she taught me the Lord's Prayer. She sent me to piano school. So even when I was so little, I was into music. So it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I went to school in Bed-Stuy, which was primarily a black neighborhood, right? So that was great, except then my mom and dad moved away to their own home in Bushwick, which is now a great, place for art now. But at that time, it was basically German and Jewish, and I was one of the few only black little kids in the class. So that wasn't such a good experience for me. But my mother did eventually, because I begged her every night, please take me out of there. I went from an A student to a D student because the teachers just didn't do anything with me. They didn't notice me. They didn't recognize me at all. So I figured, okay, I won't do anything. So I went from A student to D, and I begged my mother, please. And, so she did. She put me in a West Indian private school, which was Lutheran. So again, I went through 5 years of Lutheran, the choir, so I sang. So again, the music, and I just loved music growing up. Just loved it.
Keeping you off the wall briefly, during my research about you, watched a lot of video of you teaching classes, at art talks. I must tell you that, and I even said to Dr. Smalls, I said that you remind me of a reverend. And I didn't know exactly how to articulate that, but then when you talk about your grandmother being a Pentecostal pastor, it makes total sense.
Yes.
Because the influence shows.
Yes. When I watched my grandmother preach, from little growing up, I'm like, wow, she just spoke. She didn't hesitate, nothing. She just said her mind, and so, and I want to be just like Granny.
Of course, you're listening to Carolyn Goodrich, artist, musician, author. I want to shift gears and talk about your art briefly. That's why you're here,
yes.
Of course. And I also like to, when I talk about people's art, discuss the business end, and we'll get into that, because in the video we saw earlier, and you were talking about finishing, how you wrap it, and I think that's critical for artists to learn as far as the business concept of it. But your grandmother passes away in 1976.
Yes.
You had already started music. You had already started painting,
Yes.
And piano. I want to say guitar.
Yes. Because I couldn't bring my piano everywhere, so I got something smaller, which was the guitar.
And even smaller, a paintbrush.
Right.
Do you remember the first piece that you liked, that you enjoyed, that you said, I'm an artist? I'm a visual artist.
Oh dear. It's okay, two answers to that. One was my first piece that I did. I never considered myself until much later as an artist, because I thought that was a high thing to attain. So I'm like, I'm just drawing. So it was of a leaf, because I love trees. Trees teach me. They are my basic teachers. They teach me patience. They teach me nurturing. They teach me protection. Patience and not giving up hope. Like I went down a street one day, and a tree was cut down to its stump, and there were still flowers coming out of it. So that taught me a lot. You could be chopped down, but that doesn't mean you can't be yourself, which is yourself. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, again, I'm going to refer to this video quickly. You talked about using round, symmetrical objects to paint on, or a round canvas, or a round
Wood.
Tell me about the circle and what it means to you. Because I see several of your pieces that we're going to feature in the next segment where you painted on round canvases or round basis. Talk to me about that.
I dream a lot, and I dream about outer space a lot. I dream about traveling to different lands. So I come back when I'm awake, and I'll paint about it. I'll paint about these cosmological terrains, right? So sometimes I'll paint with my eyes closed because it will come out better. Sometimes, not all the time. So that's where the roundness comes from. It's not just from being a woman, and women like circles.
I had no assumption. I think it's fascinating. But I can definitely see within your work, and we're going to get into the type of painting that you do and your different techniques as well soon. But I can see the space concept or component of your work. So part of your history that kind of interested me, 1976 is when your grandmother passed. And this is a very interesting time in this country.
Yes.
And in the world.
Yes.
And so you go to a school of Zen in 1976. I can only imagine. Tell me about that. What is that like?
It was as if I was coming home. I went to it wasn't actually in 76. It was, when I graduated, which was in 78. But I was in a day class in school, in college, and the class was Zen, So I didn't know anything about Zen, but I wanted to hear about Zen because I started reading horoscopes, and it said all Libras love Zen. I'm like, they do? I'm a Libra, and I don't even know what Zen is. So I made sure to go learn about Zen since I'm a Libra, right? So I enrolled in this class, and the very first day, the instructor said, we're going to, at the end of this semester, we are going to visit a live Zen temple. I'm like, so at the end of that class, I asked the instructor, do I have to wait until the end? Can you tell me the address so I can go now and just on my own? Can I do that? And he said, sure, here's the address. Well, I dropped that class and I went to the Zen temple. And they said that we actually have residencies. You can live here. At that time, I was living with my mom and dad. What 18-year-old doesn't want to be out on their own, right? And I could afford it. It was only like $200 a month to live there. And they fed you oatmeal.
Is this in Brooklyn?
No, this is in Manhattan.
In Manhattan.
Oatmeal and peanut butter. I didn't mind.
Wow. So you lived there?
Yeah, I lived there. I lived there for months. And it was like coming home. It really was. You sit and you do things, and if you fall asleep or they hit you, wake up.
Wow.
But it taught me discipline. It taught me, yes, I believed in Jesus, but I'm the one reading about Jesus, so it was important for me to learn about who is reading about these things. Who am I? That was the big question in Zen. So with that, that's how I started the whole Eastern, really delving into anything. I didn't care about who was preaching it, but what were they preaching? What was it? So people are human. Some of these rishis and masters, they're human beings. They're going to do stuff that, they're terrible. But what are they teaching you? Look at that, So that's what keeps me away from too much trouble. Right?
Absolutely.
Just what's the heart of their message?
Absolutely. Speaking of who you are, Jackson Pollock has a quote, one of my favorite questions. Painting is self-discovery. Every true artist paints who he or she truly is.
Yes.
Who are you?
I'm a spirit. I am that. I am spirit. So spirit in a body has to express. I believe every human being on this planet is creative. What if they connect with it or not is up to them. That's one of my missions, is to make sure that those who say they want to be an artist or they're doing something creative, that they stick to it and don't let anything else suppress them. But when it comes to me and who am I, what am I as an artist? I am a spirit. So when I was in undergrad, I asked my professor, because I was doing representational work. I did it very well.
Where'd you do undergrad? Where was undergrad?
Oh, that was in University of Florida,
Okay.
Gainesville,
Gainesville.
which they're hopefully okay because of the Hurricane Irma.
Yes.
But so I asked the instructor, because I was a little, I wanted permission. Can I start painting abstract? Because I loved art history and I was learning about the abstract expressionists. I'm like, wow, they can do that. They don't have to look at something and reproduce that. They could reproduce what's inside of them. To me, that was like awesome. I'm like, yes, can I do this? Maybe I can't. Maybe I'll get an F if I do this. So I asked permission first. He says, oh, go for it. That was the best thing anybody ever said to me. Go for it. And so since then, I slowly went away from representational to abstract, because that is where I am. I am my spirit. And what you see in my artwork is my spirit.
I can definitely see the interstellar component, again, like I said, to your work. So that leads me to ask you, are you a fan of Sun Ra, the musician?
Sun Ra. I have never heard of Sun Ra.
I'm going to send you some Sun Ra later on this week.
Okay.
He's a musician. We'll talk about that later,
Okay.
but definitely in the same vein as you as far as believing interstellar connection and imagery and that sort of thing. Fabulous jazz musician, by the way.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, moving forward, fast forwarding to when you got here to this market, to Washington, D.C., and you're one of the few people who I can actually ask questions as an artist and as a curator. I want to quickly go to a curator question.
Sure.
Putting together an art show, you being an artist yourself, how do you do that? Because every artist is not going to be as spiritual as you. Some people, artists definitely have different modes of operandi. So how do you select your shows? What do you base that on?
When you say select the show,
The artist.
the artist in the show.
The artist in the show.
Okay. I don't have a hard criteria for selection because I'm not selecting them for any other purpose than to give them an opportunity to go through the process of showing their work. So I will choose their best work. So in that vein, I would look at their work, say if they submit 10 images, I would look and say I only have room for 50 artists, then I know that the place can only hold 100 pieces, then each artist will get at least 2 pieces to show, right?
Right.
So I'll choose out of everything what I feel is their best work. Now, what my own critique is, does it have emotional impact? Is it unique? Is it something that isn't just a representation of something that anybody can do? It's like a tree. Okay, you paint a tree. How are you really painting the tree? Can we see you in that tree? So I'm looking for the artist in whatever he's producing. If he's just going to be a technician, that's not graphic illustration. That's not art. To me, art is that fillip of emotional charge. It's something. You're showing something of who you are. If you're in misery, where's the misery? If you enjoy, where's the joy? A leaf, you can paint a leaf, but it doesn't have to be the way everybody else sees a leaf. Be courageous. Show how you see that tree. That's art for me. So if I don't see you, I don't see the art.
Carolyn S. Goodrich, here on Urban Lens Art Podcast. I want to ask you, does the S stand for Superwoman?
No, Sharon.
Sharon. Just Sharon.
Sharon. That my grandmother gave me that name.
Oh, she did?
She did. That's why I insist everywhere I go, I honor her by keeping that S.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I can tell the closeness. She
has saved me even from the grave. She has.
Wow.
I've been in feelings where I don't want to live anymore. I just want to die, kill myself. Granny, help me, and she'll come and she'll comfort me.
Now you are in particular very multidimensional in your techniques.
Yeah.
I saw you use glass. And in the last show, on the Best of the Best show, you did glass. Submitted a glass piece, which we're going to show later.
Okay.
But I want to ask you about the wax.
Sure.
And the ancient history of that.
Yes.
Talk to me about that art.
Yes. Encaustic is the technical name for pigmented beeswax. First, I love the fact that it's organic. It's not plastic. Even though I created my own paints as a painter in watercolor and also in oil, even in an acrylic. But with the beeswax, it goes back to history. The ancient Greeks, the ancient Egyptians, over 800 BC, used to use that to paint mummy masks. They used it, the Greeks used it to paint warships because the wood would be then waterproofed with the beeswax, and they said, hey, why not decorate it while we're at it? So they pigmented the wax, and that's what was done so many years ago. So, and a art dealer who I met years ago, I presented my portfolio to him, and he said his collectors, who were mostly Eastern, Chinese and so forth, he said, they head over heels about encaustic. Well, I thought encaustic was dangerous. I thought, you'd get sick with it, because that's what I kind of heard in school, but that wasn't true. It can make you sick if you don't do it right. So on my website, even I have, precautions. This is what you don't do, right?
Absolutely.
To make sure. But you can, obviously, I'm still here, right? And I've been
Absolutely.
doing it for over 15 years. So, but it's organic, even though the poor bees, they're not doing so well. Now the price of beeswax has almost doubled. So not that my paintings are going to double, but they've gone up, you know, because you know the art supplies are going up. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You talked about collectors.
yeah.
And that's a concept that's relatively new to me as a non-artist, someone who just loves art, and it's critical. And I love to hear for artists, again, we talk about the business concept, so I want to jump there quickly through this. Collectors, that is a way to nurture buyers of your art.
Sure.
How do you go about nurturing your own collectors?
You nurture yourself first. You have to know who you are so you can present that in a strong, effective way. If you're like, well, I know how to do this, I know how to do that, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know which way to go. Well, I'm going to do a little photography, then I'm going to do a little bit of this, I'm going to do a little bit of that. That's like somebody clapping once and everybody's waiting for the second clap, right? But if you keep clapping, you're going to get attention.
Pentecostal. That was
Yes,
a Pentecostal
yeah,
clap.
that's right. My first instrument was a tambourine, man. Don't
I can tell.
you know, but really, so if you want a collector, they're out there. I hate when I hear stuff like, "Oh, nobody's buying art." That's bullcrap, Alola. That's not true. It's just you not putting yourself out there strongly enough because you don't know who you are strongly enough. You're like, "Oh, I'm gonna please everybody," right? So they paint everything. You're not gonna get anybody that way.
Right.
Right. You have to know who you are, even at least for a year. Focus on one type of thing for a year. Do really good with that. Keep clapping that so you get the attention of people who is into that vibe. Everybody's not going to like the vibe, but some will. But if you don't have a vibe, you're not going to have anybody.
And that's how your collectors are born.
That's how you create the collectors. Collectors aren't, you create them because you attract them.
So another business aspect, finishing, and you talked about that briefly in the video. I find that, and my background is installation of art, so I've hung a lot of art. I've hung art that wasn't finished, wasn't ready to hang, which is key for any show.
Right.
Bring your work ready to hang, which artists fall short several times, and I'm sure some artists listening are guilty of it. And again, you talked about it specifically about finishing in your work. How did you learn that? And was it self-taught, or did you go to someone and say, how do I get my work so it's presentable?
I was very fortunate in undergrad and grad school. I went to grad school in the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Both had workshops where you would go in, you would be taught how to make your own frames. You were taught how to, like the D-rings, these things.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of the curriculum. Thank goodness. Not every art curriculum includes that. I don't know if I just chose it. I don't know. I don't remember. But I know that was a part of it. And I was in that shop all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, stuff, cut this. And so even now, I'll make my own frames. Yes, it's expensive to frame your work. So learn how to frame your work.
Right.
Go learn.
Right.
YouTube even will teach you.
That's true. The irony of the whole situation is it seems like art schools, not universities like where you attended.
Right.
Art schools fall short in this. Like you'll meet students out of art school who can paint on canvas but don't know how to finish their work fresh out of art school.
Yeah.
That's the irony of it.
Yeah, that's. I just want to make a really quick, little tiny story. One of the artists who presented his work at our last show painted with pastel. Now, pastel, if you touch it, some of it will come off on your finger if you don't finish it, if you don't protect it. Right? So I had to school him. He was one of our awardees, so I could not kick him out of the show. I wouldn't have anyway,
Right.
but I was wanting to.
Right.
And because he was saying, well, I understand if you can't show it. I understand. Him telling me that with his wife and his who was going to have a baby in a minute. Now, how am I? That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, and not just for the sake of flattery. It's for the sake of truth. If an artist doesn't know how to present his work, you have to show him. So I feel, okay, that's what I'm in the business of, showing them. Some curators, some art gallerists, they don't have time to do that. They're not inclined to do that. That's not their job. So I'm self-appointed. I will help. So, of course, now our organization is growing, which is great. But the artists need to learn. So so I put together all kinds of stuff to help them, but still, the artist has to be self-determined, self-disciplined enough to do it. So even if their college or their technical school doesn't show them, they're gonna know that if they're not in a show, they're not gonna know what they don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Urban Lens podcast. You're listening to the wisdom of Carolyn S. Goodrich, and I wanted to talk to you more about the teaching component.
Yeah.
You teach a lot about encaustic painting.
Yes.
And in your teaching, I noticed that you talk about the preservation. Again, this is touch on finishing. You talk about the preservation of the wax. As simple as to where not to hang. Don't hang it under where you're going to be burning candles.
Right.
How some people say art is made to. Nothing is final. Nothing lasts forever.
Right.
In art, it all oxygen, water, everything destroys art. How is wax and encaustic, that technique? How does that last? How do you preserve that in particular?
It itself is its own preservation.
Okay.
You don't have to cover it with anything else but itself. So you just know how you protect is, one, make sure not to put it so that it's any place over 175 degrees. That could be your trunk of your car in 100-degree day, weather. Don't put it in the trunk of your car. A lady did. She opened her car. She went to shop, came back, it melted. Right. So I mean, with them, it's like putting your artwork in a volcano. You can't do that. I mean,
Right.
it's common sense kind of thing. But if you don't know, you don't know. I guess you learn the hard way. The other thing is, if you adhere too much too soon, and you don't melt it into the next layer, that one layer is so thick. If it moves anyway because of cold, if it's too cold, then it's going to shrink, right? And it's going to separate from the ground that it's have been placed on, especially if it wasn't really prepared well. So beeswax is usually mixed with other waxes for that point. So if you're going to put something where it's going to be flexible, the temperature's going to change, then okay, use this recipe. If you're in a hot place and the artwork is going to stay in a hot place, you use another recipe. So you do have to plan ahead of how much microcrystalline, which is petroleum-based wax, how much you mix in with the beeswax, how much, Damar crystal, not varnished, crystal you add in so it's hard. These things I teach, but I taught myself. I mean, you learn techniques from books, from tapes, from instructors, but you have to do it. You have to go through the application to see yourself. How do you the artist, how do you talk to that medium? So I don't mind teaching anyone how I do it, because I know if they're true to themselves, they can't just copy me. That's shortchanging themselves, you see. So I'm secure enough in myself to not say, oh, it's a secret. No, it has to be preserved. It's been preserved this long, so we're the ones now living. We have to keep it preserved.
Yes.
Some don't want it. It's okay, but enough of them will keep it going.
Before we go to break, I wanted to talk to you about your position as director and curator for Art Impact USA. Talk to me about that.
Yes, I am the head chef and head dishwasher in that.
I know how that is.
Yes. I started the organization in 2015. So I am the president, but I'm also the executive director, and I have 2 other board members who work with me. But I basically, carry out most of the tasks, and that's something now we're growing enough where I believe we can now expand our staff base. So, so what I do there really is pretty much everything. I have a email list of over 2,000 artists, right? I do all the web design, everything that you see on our website, I put it there.
Okay.
I've done
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
What's the purpose of Art Impact USA?
The purpose is to really help nurture the artists so humanity can be nurtured. So I say it, the mission of Art Impact is nurture humanity. You can't have great art without great artists. You can't have great artists without them being nurtured, supported, taught, without them having the opportunity to be great.
What a great note to go to break on. When we get back, we're going to hear more from Carolyn S. Goodrich. I'm Steve Gregory. This is Urban Lens, the art podcast. I'm thrilled. Can't wait to hear more about this lady. Come back.
Matisse,
Kara Elizabeth Walker.
Jackson Pollock, Gordon Parks.
Urban Lens is a great opportunity for the creatives among us to tell those stories, inspire others, and sell their art.
We're taking the artists off the wall, covering events like Art Basel in Miami, Coachella, London Fashion Week.
Art means expressing yourself. Art means bringing the world closer. Art means creating something that everyone can see beauty in.
Right, we have with us today, we have Alexandra, and we have Izzy.
Hi.
All right, now guys, I just want to show you, when you teach the children, either your children or your family's children or your nieces and nephews, it's really easy to help them learn how to paint even with the encaustic, but there are some precautions, and you'll see as we go through. Now, I got these at an art craft store, and they're made of wood, the perfect ground for the beeswax. So, Izzy chose the dolly, right? And Alexandra chose the little line with these little things on them. So they've also, I've asked them to write down the colors that they want to paint with ahead of time so that I could prepare the colors with them. In the process of now mixing the paint. So first I took one of the blocks that are already made, and we melted it. And we're going to put a little yellow in there and a little bit of green because they wanted to match a certain color, this color. So the good thing about using encaustics to teach your children is it's the same process that you would teach them when you're painting, how to mix the colors, what colors make what. And so you want to go through that with them very carefully. Your brush, right? And just brush the whole guy. Just like that. Do it really fast. You see how it's getting hard? Just one.
And welcome back to Urban Lens. For those of you who are watching the live simulcast, you can see that was Carolyn teaching children about encaustic, how to paint with wax. Those of you who are listening, we're going to talk more about it as well as show some of her pieces. But I do want to talk about this new phenomenon first, Carolyn, street art. Obviously, it'd be tough to do encaustic street art. People would pick it off the wall, wouldn't last. So I want to know your appreciation for that. I hate to call it new because we know Basquiat took it to another level years ago. But that new phenomenon where it's actually making money, they're actually becoming mainstream. What do you think about street art?
I love it. I love it because it's so accessible then. So the community who may not normally go to a gallery or go to a museum, now they have it there in front of them. So I love it. I love the fact that it's becoming more mainstream and accepted. Mm-hmm. And not just, those bums.
Right, exactly. And that's a tough thing to Basquiat battle with all of his career pretty much until obviously later on. It's on that note, we see that a lot of creators in this world are not appreciated, unfortunately, until they've passed away. It's when your art takes off. It's when the prices go up. Basquiat's now selling for $100 million. How do you remedy that? How do we appreciate artists more while they're living?
I'm so happy you asked that question. That's one of my missions I'm doing in the background. I'm working with economists. I'm doing my own research on how much impact do artists have in the global economy. It's huge. So I want to bring that to the fore. I don't want it to stay hidden. Some of the artists don't know themselves, so I want to bring that information out there. It's just a matter of the reason why the artists, they're being used. When they're dead, okay, they're dead, but their art is gone up. Why? Because it's become more of a commodity. It always was a commodity, but it's now benefiting other people.
Instead of them.
Right. But other people has always benefited than the artists. The artists are the ones who do the creating. They're the one who put their heart, their soul, their spirit into the work. People who don't do that or are not in touch with their own abilities, then, oh, okay, we can sell your work for you, right? Just give us half. That's all right. Hey, they have to pay the bills for the walls that it's hung on. That's all right. My job is to help artists to be self-empowered. Help them not be taken advantage of so much. We all have to work together. There's always going to be gallerists. There's always going to be art dealers, yes. There should better be always artists, so we have to figure out how to work together where it benefits and win-win for everybody. Not this, yeah, we'll sell your work when you're dead thing, no. So to avoid that, like I said, you have to know yourself. You have to have something where you're doing your own business. You see, you're doing your own business. Again, you can have, for instance, that art dealer who told me to learn encaustic. I was so excited. I'm like, wow, he's going to sell my work. I made the mistake of representing my own self at the art expo in Jacob Javits Center. And I bought my own booth. I didn't know the politics of it. I didn't know I'm not supposed to be empowered for myself. I didn't know the rules of the game. I even knew a gallery manager in the university who was fired because she was entered her artwork into something. So now she's not a gallery manager, she's an artist. You're fired. So you have to either be an artist and do nothing else, or a gallery manager and do nothing else, or an art dealer and do nothing else. I don't believe that. Nobody's going to tell me.
Which is beautiful, because not only were the curator for Best of the Best, you were also an artist in the Best of the Best, right, which I think I see you live by the sword. Yeah. I want to quickly go to some of your work.
Okay.
But I want to handle some business first.
Okay.
ArtImpactUSA.org is the website, correct?
That's right.
ArtImpactUSA.org. Your Instagram is?
I'm bad.
Oh, you're bad. I'll get it as we look at
bad.
some of your work.
I'm
Let's
bad.
go to some of your work. Is that okay, Jay? You have about 5 pieces, I think 6 pieces. So if you can kind of discuss it for people who are actually listening on the podcast.
Sure.
This piece right here, your names are so interesting. Talk to me about this piece. What is it called?
Okay, this is called, that's Emoto's Morphogenesis of Emoto, right? Or Emoto's Morphogenesis.
Beautiful, circular. You
Yeah.
can see the textures. You can see the space type of interstellar influence.
Right. One of the things that I study is theoretical physics. The reason why is because it's so close to what I learned in Zen. It's so close to what I learned in the Eastern philosophies. Theoretical physics and philosophy, dead on Sanskrit type of old-time philosophy. They merge. So Masaru Emoto is someone who was taking water, praying over it, and taking a microscope to take a picture of what happens when you pray over water, what happens when you curse over water, what happens when you sing over water. Beautiful. So in honor of him, he died recently, I did a whole series of Emoto.
Wow, let's take a look at another piece. Wow. What's this one called?
Uh-oh.
Where'd she go? Any others?
That one
okay.
was the passage. That was the
There it
middle
is.
passage. That one actually sold recently. An art dealer sold that for me. And the middle passage. It's funny that you bring this one up because, as you may or may not know, they call the middle passage sort of like the path where the slave ships travel.
Right, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And there's also, because I studied physics, and I ran across the idea that there's a charge that remains after a lot of harm is done. A lot of charge in the air. So for all the millions of people people, not slaves, people that died along this passage. They say now that the Western Africa is where all hurricanes originate. All. So I thought of that, and I actually got that verified in some of my readings. So I don't paint about things that make me sad, but I want to, do something about it because I'm holding that information in, and I want to get it out. So that's why I did that one. And so that was about the middle passage. And I kept looking at my painting. I saw this dark spot. Then it kept bothering me. I was like, oh, I'm going to paint over it. I don't want anything sad. I don't want to perpetuate sadness. I couldn't do it. I kept looking at it. I couldn't do it. And then finally, I got invited to the show about Black history. Mm-hmm. And I said, boom, that's it.
Speaking of Black history, before we go to another piece, you are an ambassador for the National African American History Museum and Culture.
Yes.
What is that like? What does that entail?
Well, okay, I have to say that I'm no longer an ambassador. I was for a couple years, but my attention is so pressed over so many things.
Right.
But I wanted very much, and I did, to support them. So
Absolutely.
Really what it meant was just giving a lot of money every month. It's just like giving money
I understand
every
that.
month. So, but I did, and I attended some of their openings and everything. And then when they opened, I said, okay, I've done my part.
Beautiful. And you did.
I did.
And you did.
So I was happy I was a part of it.
Okay, next piece, Jay. Now, is this glass?
Yes, it is. This is glass. This took me a whole semester in my senior year.
What is it called and how big is it?
This is about 36 or 40 inches wide, and so it's a pretty nice size piece. Yes, about 48 inches wide and maybe 28 inches high. This piece, this is number 5 of a painting that I did, The Sleep of Mankind. The Sleep of Mankind. I feel like mankind is asleep because it's great to be human, I feel. There's so much power in humanity, but man is asleep to his own greatness. So that's my rendition of The Sleep.
Wow.
A great emperor we all are inside, men and women.
Absolutely. Next piece, Jay. Amazing. This is one of my favorites. Amazing. Again, circular. Again, texture. Again, interstellar. I mean, it's like you're looking at like a beautiful moon. But talk to me about, what's the name of this piece?
This one has the word flower in it. I have to say, I forget the name of this one, but it does have the name Inner Flower or something like that, or the Song of the Flower. That's it, the Song of the Flower.
Okay.
The Song of the Flower, because for me, everything has a song in it, because that's something that one of the physicists said, that God is, what does it say? God is, it's like the song. He's a song everywhere, right? In all dimensions. The thoughts of God are the dimensions of sound and music. So for me, even a flower has its own song because God is in it.
Absolutely. Now, the piece you submitted for Best of the Best, I want to show next, the picture of the owl.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the technique on this one. And it's different than any other piece that we've shown so far.
Right. Because I dipped back into representational a bit. The reason why I did birds, this is like one of 3 bird paintings that I've done, because I kept in my spirit feeling, I had visions of me being this huge bird on the wing, just going no matter what. You know, when you see birds going south, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep going, right? Because that's what they're to do. That's how I feel. I'm not going to stop.
You said that earlier before the interview started.
I'm not going to stop. I don't care. And I feel like I'm protecting the artist. I have appointed myself. I'm sorry. Nobody,
Self-appointed.
That's right. I'm the self-appointed. I want to protect the artist. I want to help them grow. I'm one too. I haven't forgotten that. But I'm also, I feel like a protector, a leader, but for them so that we can all together, not herding cats. I hate that, herding cats. If we're cats, we're lions then, lions.
Your career is not over, but if you can encapsulate your career, how would you do that?
What do you mean?
If you could just sum up, like, overall, your work, your impact on the world, I guess more or less it's a legacy question. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want to be known as a fine art leader.
A fine art leader.
Fine art leader. I did a video, my very first YouTube video, about 10 years ago.
I'm sure I saw it last night.
Did you?
I'm sure I watched about 10 of them.
This was way early, and it was just of a mind movie of the all my ideas of what I wanted to accomplish, and it was fine art leader. And I haven't gone back. I want to be, I'm learning how to be that which I know I am, but in the real world. Because everybody, I hope, most people sort of know what they want to do or what their mission is in life. Maybe not, I don't know, but I'm lucky that I do. And so I want to continually help, because it's like, okay, I know I'm a good artist, all right, but I'm not just going to be a good artist and that's it. I'm just caring about myself. Give me my money. No, it's like being on a yacht by yourself. There's no fun. There's no fun. You need others around you. You need to feel like you're doing something that is making an impact on this world. And so with that, I say I want to be known as somebody who did make a difference in helping artists be more self-empowered. I don't know how else to put it except to lead them to a place where nobody seems to be really interested in leading them as a group. A lot of artists ask me, can you get me a solo show in this place and that place? I said, well, maybe in a few years, but right now I'm focused on helping as many artists as I can. Some artists don't like that. Some artists just want to be with only the big artists. Oh, it's like real estate. If you're the only good artist and everybody else is scrubs, that's going to bring you down. No, don't think like that. You can help them. You can help them. So again, it's just mindset.
Carolyn S. Goodrich, fine art leader. I'm enjoying this so much. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. I want to quickly hear you. Tell me about Guggenheim and that show.
Okay. All right. Rosenquist, before he passed, he had like a retrospective, right, of his work. And during that time, he gave workshops of how to handle paint, how to paint big, because Rosenquist's work was huge, huge. So I'm like, I want to sign up for that class. So I paid my money. Being an artist is a business. You invest in your career. Come on. So I paid money for that. And at the end of it, so after those classes, during those classes, we had assignments which included doing a piece of art based on what you learned. So I did. And it got into a show then at the Guggenheim, so I can always brag now. I showed at the Guggenheim, which I can, because I did. I was happy. They put it up on the wall. They didn't say no.
Right. I do want to promote your Twitter account because the name I found so interesting. Do you remember your name of your Twitter account? Or are you going to have me pull this up online?
I thought it said Art Impact, no?
No, your Twitter is Love. It is.
My own personal one. Project Love Now.
Project Love Now.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
That's right. Because
talk to me about that.
Okay, some artists, they want to project their dissatisfaction with the society. Okay, I got that. I want to balance it out. I want to balance out the good, the bad, and the ugly, okay? I want to be on the good side. There's some stuff that's ugly and stuff, but I just want to project love. If you project love, because you have it inside. If you don't have it inside, then you can't project it. So it's sort of, a mute case if you don't have it inside, which I don't think that's true of anyone. I think everybody has some love. They may think not, but it's there.
So although you haven't made any posts, I'm going to talk to you about that too, but I want to still give out your Instagram, Carolyn.Goodrich. is her Instagram. That is at Carolyn.Goodrich for those of you listening and those of you watching. Please go to our Instagram page, become a fan, go to the website, artimpactusa.org, support.
My personal website, though.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
is
abstractpaintings.org.
abstractpaintings.org.
I got that abstract paintings early because I believe one of the first artists who really took advantage of the internet in the old days. You know, wow, people could see my work in other countries. So I went ahead and I got abstractpaintings.com, right? And then when I started coming into the org, then I said, okay, .org.
So you still have both?
Yeah, I have both. Yeah, I have both.
I'm sure. Has anyone approached you to buy them?
Yes, I said
sure.
no.
I'm sure. So on Instagram, you know, we're dealing with millennials, and some of them are listening, especially young millennial artists. Why haven't you made any posts?
Okay, most because of the time that I don't prioritize the Instagram. That's why it is. Honestly, I don't prioritize it. And it's only because I'm building this empire in my mind of Art Impact USA. Again, I'm thinking of it more for the organization of all the artists. I you know, people, a lot of the members that I have, they say, Carolyn, you have to take care of yourself. Do you ever sleep? It's like, yes, I sleep, but I got to do this for everybody. You know, everybody has excuse me, everybody has a purpose. To me, my purpose is not just to be myself and love myself, which is good, but my purpose is to help the other artists. Since I remember, this is funny, in 6th grade, I learned how to crochet. So I created this club, and this club was comprised of all the kids who were not in the nice club. Oh, you can't be in it. You too big, or you too fat, you too ugly. So I made my own club of all the big and ugly, whatever kids. I didn't care. I was like, no, you're good too. You can be in my club. So I made the Bluebird Club. And my job was to make sure that they crocheted, and the one who had the nicest crochet piece, they got a prize. And the prize was my Cracker Jack box prize. You know? But so even in the 5th grade, I was doing the same thing.
Wow.
Even
Talk
then,
about a calling. Talk about a calling.
Yeah, that's I can't do anything else.
I being born in Trinidad, being raised in Brooklyn, being now here in Washington D.C. Where is your favorite place to create? Where do you feel most creative in the world?
Wow, most creative place. You know, that's hard. Okay, it doesn't matter where, as long as it's in my home. I can't seem to paint and I've gotten many studios where it's a studio, right? But if it's not where I sleep, I can't seem to really do much production. So I painted on my living room and my kitchen, it's great, you know. I just find a space. So that's the
Your
best
home.
place. Yeah, that's my home, and I have like 3 of them really. And as long as, because I don't know, it's sort of like a security. I'm where I belong, and I belong at home. So home for me is where I sleep, where I eat. So that's where I paint, because that's my life. That's my life.
So you're going to Brooklyn in a couple weeks.
Yes, I am.
Are you going to show up there?
No.
This is not a working trip.
No, this is not a working trip, but it is a working trip because I bring my laptop with me and I work on the Art
Impact
yeah.
USA.
And actually, I have to say, we just changed our name now to Art Impact International.
Art Impact International.
Yeah, and you can actually, I started a website. I didn't tell you about that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just started that website like a couple months ago. I haven't really pronounced it yet because we're still building it. But it's got a lot of stuff on there. So artimpactinternational.org.
I still say the S stands for Superwoman. I know Grandma would not approve of it, but I still say it stands for Superwoman. You do so much. How much time do we have left, James? 1 minute. That's what I thought. Well, listen, I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
From the bottom of my heart. It's been incredible. Like I said off air, that I never felt like I could talk to someone for the full hour without discussing their art. So we were able to get all of that in. I really appreciate it. Enjoy Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You mentioned that piece called Middle Passage sold.
Yeah, it did.
I like to close with this. How is it when you sell your babies? Which is your
I
pieces?
love it. I love it. I got so much more in me. Why not?
All right. Well, listen, thank you everyone for listening. I know it's NFL football season here. Those of you on the podcast, you can listen anytime. But to those of you who watch live, I really appreciate it. Carolyn S. Goodrich, thank you once again.
You're welcome.
All right.
You're welcome.
Art means story, life story, and bringing people together. It's a connector. It's your pain. It's your agony. It's what your perspective in the world is.
Art can be beautiful and art can be ugly.
Beautifully ugly.
This is Urban Lens. Urban Lens.